Hey.
Hey, okay, I'm so happy.
It's sorted. Here, hold on a
Yay.
second. I gotta.
Okay.
There, it's on speaker. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for thinking of that. I don't even know. I was like, what other options could there possibly be? Google Hangouts, of course. Didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you and come to the show. That was incredible, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it was insane. It was just like, it was mind-blowing, so good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in the burlesque scene?
Well, I mean, honestly, like, I wanted to do it for a very long time, and I moved to Vancouver, like 10 years ago, I guess, and I heard about, like, a local troupe, Screaming Chicken Theatrical Society, and basically I just admired them from afar for a little bit and then took a couple classes with them, and then basically just like found like my meaning for life by performing with them over the years, and then like doing shows here and there. It was just kind of like a passion that I found just through like the internet. I guess.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So you're not still with Screaming Chicken, are you?
Yeah, I am. Like, I still perform with them. They're a nonprofit. They're a troupe. We have like studio space. We put on shows. Like, they're a pretty big troupe of like, I don't know, 80 people or something that are like casually to pretty immersed in that group. I'm a member of them, but like the Seinfeld burlesque is my own thing. Like, I produce that show. It has nothing to do with them.
Oh, you produced that on your own, or was it with that what was her, Elizabeth? Or?
No, I produced Seinfeld burlesque with April O'Peel Productions as well. Yeah, I co-produced it with her, but I'm like artistic director and do all the marketing and everything for it. So yeah. That's my baby, but she has been like a mentor of mine in the past. So I've done lots of stuff with her, basically.
So I have to ask, why Seinfeld burlesque? Like, how did this come about? Like a couple of years ago, April did a show. Like we kind of talked about this idea of like 90s being a thing. So I was in like a 90s show with her. That she was producing, and I did like a Jerry solo. And I had previously, like, for Screaming Chicken at one of our shows, I did like one group number as like the Seinfeld 4, and I just kind of like really resonated. Like I just resonate with that character. Like I grew up kind of watching him. I would like just listen to him as I fall asleep. Like, I'd fall asleep with the TV on. He was a big part of my 20s, I think. I feel you. I do.
The show. It was a really big part of my 20s. And I think I just, like, identify with that character. And I think it's really hilarious to dress and drag as him. Like, I honestly don't know where this idea came from exactly. I think I just thought this would be really fucking funny, and I think people will really enjoy this. And I actually didn't realize like how big of a fan base Seinfeld had until I like really started like looking stuff up online, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know, I just like, it was just a passion. Like, I was like, I want to be Jerry Seinfeld and make a hairsuit, and I want to basically like sexualize this clean comedian in the most hilarious ways for his fan base. I don't know.
I think it is. I think it's just one of the most unique things I've heard. I don't know a lot about burlesque in particular, but I was reading up on the burlesque scene in Vancouver a bit, and it seems to be a little bit different than in some other parts of the world. Like, it's more unique. There's a Sailor Moon burlesque.
just different cabarets and...
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you more about that scene, but basically, Vancouver is like very big for burlesque, actually, and we're, as far as like paying performers go, like for Canada, like it's pretty good. Like we've got a really good scene here. It kind of ranges. There's some very, like, this is, I mean, what I would say, this is more neo-burlesque. Like, there's kind of like two schools of burlesque, really, but so much crossover between them, too. So they have, like, more classic burlesque, and then neo-burlesque. And neo-burlesque is more, like, weird art, less like corsets and gloves and fan dances and such. It's usually a little bit more... More stuff like, yeah, Seinfeld burlesque would be that. They have Star Wars burlesque, and Geekenders does a bunch of stuff.
Nicolas Cage.
Like, pardon?
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage burlesque. Like, like that would be considered more neo. They're very, like, nerdlesque is the subcategory, essentially. But, yeah, I mean, it's a really big scene in Vancouver for burlesque, because, burlesque is, like, a subculture. It's not necessarily something that appeals to the masses. And I think Seinfeld, I was like actually really trying to get people interested in burlesque who are not burlesque goers. So I think part of like the motivation of like being Jerry Seinfeld too is also just appealing to the regular people and like getting them interested in burlesque, because I think it's amazing.
It is. Well, I think that was a lot of people's first burlesque show because of it being Seinfeld. So how do you think the burlesque scene has changed in Vancouver over the past 10 or 20 years?
Well, to be honest, like I haven't been around for that long. I mean, I've been around for about 7 years or so. I know like currently we're going through some changes. Some of the main producers are no longer producing. Like I have seen a lot of performers come in and out of the scene, like during my short period of time doing it. I think style-wise, there are a lot more shows that are geared towards like attracting the general public, I guess. Like from what my impression is like when April was doing burlesque like 10 years ago, it was very like punk rock, like in a shitty bar, not on these like decent stages. And I think like it was maybe, it just had, it was more experimental. And I don't know from prior to that really exactly what the scene was like, but I do know like it's always evolving and there's always new people coming in and out, and I think people's artistic style changes and their motivations for doing shows will change as well, so they'll try and appeal to maybe a different demographic than they might have before. Like I know at one time there was more like gory burlesque, or burlesque that was like more sideshow. Like I'm not entirely sure exactly what was going on, but I know it was different. It's always changing though.
Of course.
I know right now there are lots of bigger shows being produced, and I mean the coolest thing I think about it is like there is a lot of burlesque happening here. Like there's multiple shows a month, and I know like at one point, like at least 10 years ago, like it wasn't as easy to get gigs, or it wasn't as like prominent in the art scene. I don't think. Like there were shows, of course, but I don't think it was like quite as many.
Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway.
Well, I feel like there are quite a few in Vancouver, and every time I look it up on Google, it's like Vancouver's burlesque scene is one of the greatest in the world. So
yeah, I mean, like it is a really great scene for sure, especially like North America wise. Like we're like the best, honestly, I think. But
there's a festival too, like
yeah, there's a festival. Like we do have a reputation for being like
quite good at burlesque and having a good solid scene. So yeah,
so
pretty special.
When you say team, do you mean, you mentioned troops earlier? So is everybody sort of in the burlesque scene kind of friends, acquaintances, or do you stick to your troops?
You know what? Honestly, like, I would say there are some troops, but I feel like people are still quite independent. Like, you'll see a few performers that aren't troops performing other shows, or, you know, some people are producing shows as well as performing in other shows. It's not that everybody's friends, because there have been things that have happened, I think, between producers and between performer producers. Like, I mean, it's like any kind of industry. I think, you know, people have different stances on conducting business / like working together. I mean, everything's a good community. I think it's a pretty good community of people, but, you know, there are obviously like working relationships that are not like I don't know how to say it diplomatically, but there are working relationships in any sort of business that don't work out, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like continuously evolving, and I think people come and go within the scene. But I think the ones, like the people that are, you know, coming up right now or that have been doing it for a while tend to have a bit of longevity by the way they conduct themselves in the scene, if that makes any sense.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good to know. That was something that I couldn't really find when I was researching, and I was very curious about. I was like, are you guys, you know, friends or enemies?
I mean, like, I definitely think, like, you know, everybody is, like, can get, well, I mean, not everybody can get along, but I think there's, like, a level of professionalism with the producers and such, at least. Like, I think that, you know.
Yes, just like any job.
Take it seriously. Like, here's a great thing to say, I think that, so there's people who take burlesque seriously, and there's people who are more hobbyists. And to be honest, like, I'm kind of in the middle there, because Seinfeld was actually the first show I've produced.
Right.
So that was my second time doing it. But, like, up until that point, I've been mostly performing at shows. And, you know, doing it, it's not my full-time gig. I have, like, a day job currently, and I do, like, design work as well. So that's my bread and butter. And burlesque was kind of like my, you know, my side gig, another side gig.
Yes. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's all about, like, the level that performers are committed to it, because there are some working performers that, you know, do a lot of, like, a fair amount of gigs anyways, and then some that just do it to travel occasionally, or just, you know, to do shows here and there as well. Yeah, so it's really about the commitment level, because it can be quite a commitment.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah. And what would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions about burlesque that people have?
Well, I mean, you know, there was that movie Burlesque with Christina Aguilera.
Oh, yes.
I do think a lot of the general population would think about this movie and think that this is burlesque, but there is so much more to it. The thing is, like I said, there's, you know, classic burlesque or neo burlesque or anything in between. It's essentially like burlesque can be so much. I mean, you can have, like, very weird arty performances, which is what I really like to do. You can have more, you know, like, pop culture reference type performances, very, like dancey, like club dancer performances.
It's just like, it can be anything, really. It's not Christina Aguilera singing in a corset. Like, it can be that, but it's essentially the commonality that ties it all together, like, most of the time, is that you are stripping down to, like, pasties and, like, a thong. And maybe not in, like, you know, for my show, maybe not everybody does that because I'm wearing a hirsute or whatever, or not everybody might not do that, but it's still considered burlesque because the premise is kind of the same too. It's like usually, you know, a few minutes of dancing and stripping.
Yes.
It's pretty much what it is. And not to full nudity, but down to like pasties and a G-string, really.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people think it is like that movie, and they don't realize that there's so many more weird ideas or like hilarious things that can happen on stage that look nothing like what Christina Aguilera did. Like, it's not always with the motivation, like, performers aren't always like motivated to perform in like what would be considered more of like a typical sexy way, you know, like
yes.
There's a lot more surprises and a lot more art that you can see in burlesque than what is shown in that movie specifically.
I've never seen it, but I'm going to have to watch it.
yeah, well, you will probably be bored. You'll be like,
I think so. I never had any desire. It looks pretty boring.
Yeah,
so.
It's pretty boring. It's like a dumb story too. So anyway, that's like the biggest misconception, I think. And I just think, not so much a misconception, but I just think it's, I think a lot of people don't realize how awesome it is until they go to a good show.
Absolutely.
Like, there are so many shows out there, but like, you know, everybody's going to kind of resonate with different things because it's, you know, different art. And I think when you find the show that speaks to you, or the performer that kind of speaks to you, or, you know, like, it can be very inspiring to see things, but it's just, you have to experience more than one show, I think, to, or some people do, to find like something from burlesque. And I think, sometimes people will be like, oh, I saw a burlesque show at some place, and it might not represent like all of what burlesque is. Like, it's so much more. It
really is an art form.
Yeah, definitely.
The jungle scene that you guys did on stage?
Oh, yeah.
That was definitely art.
You knew that was like Jay Peterman, right?
I didn't.
You didn't? Okay, because they fucked up our video. I'm so upset.
So
okay. The video was meant to be like a little explanation. You know, the videos were meant to sort of like
yes.
set the scene, and it was meant to like show his character.
Yes.
That was Jay Peterman, and he was in the jungle. So that's the context there. And some super fans like went crazy over that, but like, if you didn't have the video to, you know, we didn't have that video to sort of set it up. So yeah, I guess that's probably why you missed it.
Oh, but I mean, it was still crazy.
That's my number.
The frog guy, it was just, I don't know. I didn't know what it was, but I was into it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's like definitely, I would like to do more weird things with like layered references in some upcoming shows. I would like to do more of that. Just make it weirder and weirder, because that's sort of my perspective on or how my brain works anyway. So
yeah, no, it was incredible. So what how do you think that burlesque today fits into the Me Too culture?
Oh my god, like, ugh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's like a super intense question, but it's okay. No, it's like good. I have to be honest, like, I think, at least from my experience, like, burlesque, like, wow. I think it fits in a way that, like, a lot of performers are very, I mean, not all performers, but I've seen a lot of vocal performers talking about their instances, like, within the industry of experiences, like,
that are Me Too experiences. I think because this like art form is essentially like stripping, there is a lot of like information shared, a lot of conversation around like these types of things, like Me Too especially. Like I know that a lot of people are open to talk about that. I mean, like it's like a huge phenomenon that like everybody is talking about it, and it's amazing. But I think with burlesque, especially because like several burlesque performers have been like sex workers or have, are strippers as well as burlesque performers. I mean, like there's just so much crossover in the industry, and I just think it's a really diverse community. So like I'm talking not just Vancouver, I'm talking like worldwide, and I think it's like interesting because people are pretty open to talk about these things because they are, I would say, like a lot of performers are very passionate about these issues, and I think if you're going to kind of stereotype a performer, they're usually very like sex positive, body positive, smash the patriarchy
Absolutely.
type persona. Not everyone, but I'd say that's like quite a common theme, because we're really, I'd say, like somewhat like activist by just being performers. Yeah, I think I'm rambling a little bit, but
no, I get where you're coming from. I was actually just listening to a podcast today.
Which one?
It's called Feelin' Weird.
Feelin' Weird. Okay, I haven't heard this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's I actually interviewed him as well. Yeah, so it's by a guy named Kai Plant, or sorry, not genderqueer.
Yeah.
Named Kai. So they're talking about sex work, and they're interviewing one woman, and she is a sex worker in many different areas. Like she had a sugar daddy, and she was a stripper, just everything. Burlesque dancer.
Yeah, I mean, like not every burlesque dancer is a sex worker. Like there's there's several people that have day jobs, and like I have a day job, and I also perform, and I think it's just there's crossover though,
Yes.
So there's people who have a lot more firsthand experience with working in that type of working in that industry, and also just like there's just a lot of discussion around it, because I think something that the burlesque community is always kind of striving towards is making sure that we create safe spaces that involve hiring and working with people that understand boundaries and that are respectful to each other. So I think there's been a lot of discussion about Me Too and just like the overall standards for like what's appropriate working. Like I think there are people that are really pushing to make the burlesque environment working to be more of a professional environment,
which is in the end positive.
Yeah, I mean, of course it is. This is the thing. It's just it's not when I say there's a lot of open discussion around it, I'm not saying that if you come into your burlesque, you're going to have a Me Too experience. I'm just saying from the type of people that do burlesque, there's so many women is what I'm getting at, or women identifying, but even, they just have there's just a lot of conversation around these topics because, you know, you're working half naked. So,
yes,
or mostly naked. So it's just like a conversation, you know, and everybody wants to do better.
It would come up.
Yeah, it just comes up.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was like a 5-minute tangent.
No, it's good. It's really interesting, and I think a lot of people are curious about it, especially with burlesque in particular.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm like, this is also from my perspective too. So, just like what I see in the communities and such. You know?
Yes. So, where are you from, by the way?
Like originally?
Yes.
I'm from Ontario, but I've been like out this way for more than half my life. So
Okay. And you live in Vancouver?
yeah, I'm in Vancouver.
Nice. Downtown or?
Like in the city, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So am I.
Cool.
Pretty nice, expensive, but c'est la
Yeah.
vie.
Yeah.
Such is life. Okay, well, I think that's all I have to ask you. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know. I'm just kind of curious, like, I'm just kind of curious what we put together. You know? If there's anything else that I don't know. I just think it's like burlesque is amazing, and I think like what I'm doing with Seinfeld is actually like really like a pretty great dream of mine, and I know it's super weird, but I really take so much enjoyment from like making people laugh and being an entertainer and doing weird stuff. And I don't know, I think this is a pretty cool thing to like have you put something together. I hope it's good and it like gets picked up or whatever. But
It is pretty damn cool. I mean, to look at that and think you actually did that. You made it happen, and it was so good. So
yeah,
bravo.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm eloquent enough to to say anything else. I don't know.
No, that's okay. I've got a lot to work with here. I was actually just going to first write about my night at a Seinfeld burlesque when I pitched to Vice.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vice emailed me back, and then they stopped emailing me, which is apparently a common theme with Vice.
Oh, yeah.
They call it ghosting. They ghost their writers. They just stop replying, or anyway. So I'm speaking with the Georgia Strait right now. But what I was going to do is write about how your group is so much more unique and special than some of the other groups. But then now I've learned that it's not really a group. It's independent dancers.
Yeah, like essentially how it works is like, so, I mean, April produces a lot of shows in the city. And what I do is like, I was like, this is a show I'm going to do, and I need someone to help me because it's my first time producing or whatever, like last time. I just, you know, and I trust April to help me with it. So basically it was like just me figuring out what I'm doing and hiring the performers, and, you know, it was like which character, you know, saying which characters they're going to be. And yeah, it's like my artistic vision essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, not really a troupe, but I have worked with I've worked with most of those people before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like my weird idea, you know?
Yes. No, it's awesome. I'll come up with something though, like some way to word it and figure it out.
Yeah.
But I do have some pretty awesome pictures, especially with the Cheerios, so I'll send those over to you.
Cool. Yeah, well, can my ass be on can my ass be in there? Like, I don't know. Like
Sorry?
I say, like, can my like ass be in the air, like with the Georgia Strait, or
Oh,
what?
I wouldn't have asked you. I wouldn't have like even done that without your permission. I didn't even.
No, I'm saying like, can it be? Like,
Can
I don't
it
even
be?
know if they would be okay with like.
Don't know, but that's worth looking into. Would you be okay with it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
You're fine with it? Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure, if you want to put some, like, weird pictures.
Well, if I put any pictures in it, I will just ask you if it's okay first, because of the other performers as well. I wouldn't do that. That's just mean.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, at the end of the day, like, we're really, like, trying to be kind of, like, you know, like, work with each other rather than, like, divide the community. And I think we're all kind of trying to do our different things to appeal to audience. And, you know, a lot of the time it is the same audience. So, in my opinion, like, I feel like my show, yes, is unique because how, like, no one else has tried to be Jerry Seinfeld, a clean comedian, and, like, tried to, like, sexualize him. But, I mean, I think that we're, like, I don't know, I just think there's so many good ideas coming from everybody in so many different forms.
I think so too. My teacher actually I told him about I said I went to a burlesque show last night, and he said, "Oh, the Seinfeld burlesque." And I was like,
really?
"What? How do you know about that?" He's actually an entertainment writer for The Sun, so he knows about all the burlesques.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny because I don't even think we're in we might have been, I don't know if we were listed, like, that's the thing. I'm not 100% sure if we even were, but yeah, that's funny.
I don't know, he just knows about everything going on in terms of entertainment, so.
That's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, so he's all up in on this, and he's so excited.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, well, that's sweet. Hopefully, like, you're able to get some kind of article. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Yeah. And definitely, like, can you, like, link my social media account?
Yes.
Kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, like Seinfeld Burlesque, especially.
Oh, okay, maybe you could just Facebook those, or email, whatever. Facebook doesn't matter. Messenger those over to me, your channels. I think I follow you on Instagram, and
yeah, you probably do.
I don't know about Facebook. I'm not much of a Facebook gal, but
no, it's horrible because for burlesque, like, they are such tight guidelines. So, like, any mention of, like, anything sexual or, like, you know, nudity, they're, like, flagging posts. It's, like, really jeopardizing our situation, because so much of our, like, all of our communication, like, for the burlesque community, like, around the world, essentially, is through Facebook. And they keep, like, blocking us, banning us, making us show our legal name. Like, some people have had to come on with their legal names, which is very unsafe for certain for performers. Like, it's a nightmare. So I try and stay off Facebook too. Instagram's, like, slightly better. I can get away with, like, more nudity stuff.
Yes.
I try. It's really hard though, but you can get away with more.
I think so. Yeah, Facebook it's too much out there.
Yeah.
People, like, all up in that. So, yes, just send me those social media channels. I'll send you some of the photos
sure.
as well. And yes, I'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye.